Liftoff. Welcome, everybody, to episode 2, the much better episode of the Surety.law podcast. My name's Max Langley, and with me today, as always, are Shirelle and Keith, along with producer Emo, and we're going to try to teach you a thing or two about Surety. Today's episode is titled Surety 101, and we'll be interviewing Shirelle about her experience as a Surety claim manager at various sureties. And here we go.
Comedy.law, yeah, we're here to play. Max, Shirelle, Keith leading the way. Lawyers with laughs and jokes to slay. Tune in, folks, it's Comedy.law today.
All right. And Keith, what does RTFB mean? I forgot. I don't. They keep saying that at all these conferences we go to.
Yeah, it means read the full bond. So hopefully you're focused on every part of the bond.
Every part of the bond. So surety is a 3-part agreement. There's the principal, the obligee, and the surety. And the surety is often kind of like how I look right now. And a lot of you won't be able to see that because you're just listening to the audio and not the video. But the surety is often kind of like the monkey in the middle. It's between the principal and the obligee. Both of them want something. And the surety is often stuck in the middle. Like that song, right, Shirelle? Here, I'm going to sing it for you. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Is that right?
Is that an equilateral triangle, Max?
No, never. Gina with Merchants Bonding Company tells me it's supposed to be an equilateral triangle, but luckily she's wrong. It is a right triangle.
What is right about it?
It looks something like, let me just jot one down on my, looks something like this. Boom. And I don't know where all of them go. Let's see, something like this. S, and then O, P, bond. So it looks something like this, right? Where the principal and the surety are on one side and the surety's on the other. And then the bond goes on where the, I think the hypotenuse, right? A hypotenuse.
What do you think about that, Shirelle? I mean, the triangle is not the monkey in the middle issue, but trying to describe that there are 3 parties involved. There's the principal and the obligee. The principal being who got the bond or who is bonded, and the obligee a lot of times is the owner. It could be the general contractor if they bond downstream, but I guess the issue is the 3 parties, and why do you think that we have the 3 parties involved, and how that impacts what is to happen?
So I think the importance of the surety, first of all, is it guarantees for the obligee that the job is going to get done. So who doesn't want an assurance that, hey, I'm paying this guy some money and he's going to do the job the way that I want it done. So I think...
Did you say assurance or insurance?
Assurance.
Assurance. Yeah, there's a big difference. This is not that's the first thing they teach you in surety school, is that surety and insurance are different.
Exactly. So I think,
and well, Shirelle, focusing on that and why it's different than insurance, and back to the 3 parties, and we all know that everyone is the hero of their own story. So you have the principal, either a general or a subcontractor, and then you have the obligee, maybe the owner or the general contractor. You have someone the work is supposed to be done for, and the surety is supposed to assure that this gets done. And I'm thinking, do you ask your principal, the contractor, well, have you done the work?
Typically, yes. Like when say we get a claimant, the first thing we do is reach out to our principal, ask them, hey, what's going on? We got this information from the obligee. They're saying that these things are happening or not happening, depending on the situation. But we want to get their side of things because obviously we already have gotten some kind of notification from the obligee that things aren't being completed to the standard that the obligee would have them to be.
Yeah, and Max, I'd like to jump in and talk a little bit about. I mean, you've got the he said and she said, the different give and take on that. But is there a way that you can try to get the parties to agree on what the dispute is? You know, do you have a meeting? What do you do to try to bring these parties closer together?
You do. You have a meeting on a lot of the modern bond forms, like the modern A312. There's a meeting requirement for the initial notice of intent to default. So when the obligee thinks, "Hey, there's a problem here," they have to actually contact the surety and facilitate that meeting. So then there's the meeting between the obligee, the principal, and the surety, where resolution tries to occur, or at least whittling down the issues. Like you said, you can whittle it down. You can usually narrow down the dispute to 2 or 3 issues of what's actually being contested between the parties.
What do you think about that, Shirelle? And what do you do there?
I think that what Max is saying is very true. You kind of want to just figure out what's the nitty gritty of what's happening between the two parties, where the dispute lies, what can we do to resolve the issue. Sometimes especially when it comes to the obligee and the principal, there might be some issues with change orders. There might be some issues with the specs, and maybe the obligee is saying that the principal is not following whatever contract requirements are in, or whatever contract requirements that have been established.
So I guess the issue is you have this meeting or you have this correspondence and you have the said, she said, you have the argument. What if you reach an impasse? If you can't resolve that, are you able as the surety to pick a side and declare a winner?
No, obviously not. You want to follow certain procedures. If you can't, reach an agreement, sometimes we'll have outside counsel, such as yourselves, to kind of help us out when it comes to dispute. Sometimes things even escalate to litigation. Um, so it just all depends on whatever the situation is.
Well,
That,
some of the GIAs allow you to actually kind of pick the winner because you can resolve the principal's defense and affirmative claim as the surety in a lot of situations, especially on P&P bonds, whatever those are. We'll get to those later. What the heck is a P&P bond?
I mean, you can choose a winner. You do have certain rights in the agreement, the indemnity agreement. It's pretty risky to do that, right? I mean, if you do that, you would think that your principal is going to say, "Hey, you're not taking my side. You're not supporting me." You're going to have a fight with
That's
the
bad faith right
principal.
there, right? In some
Right.
states, the bad faith is still a remnant that still exists. So the surety has to be cognizant of what state they're operating in. So if you're in something like Washington, there are still vestiges of the bad faith ideas that can happen. But long story short, that should not occur because bad faith and surety, those don't go together. Those are like apples and oranges, or
So
they
that's
should.
a whole nother podcast. We can probably talk about that for quite a few podcasts. But the issue, I guess, Shirelle, would, you have, while you have this, if you have a disagreement, an argument that cannot be resolved, at the same time you have a project that's trying to be concluded, that's a problem, right? I mean, not progressing the project. So what do you do?
Some we have to take into consideration a bunch of different things. Can we get our principal to come back and complete the project? Do we need to hire another contractor to come in and complete the project, or do we want to just maybe pay the obligee and say, hey, we're going to give you this amount of money, and then they go complete the project on their own. They find another contractor, and they create a new contract with the new contractor. So there are a number of things that we have to consider when trying to get projects completed.
We call those the options, don't we?
Yeah. So Max, I want to talk about two things. One is the response letter. If the surety, after they've investigated, maybe met, gotten information, looked at documents, they may have hired a consultant to go take a look, and you have the potential of either explaining all of this in a letter, which you usually do to the obligee, um, or there's the T word, the termination.
Big
And
word.
maybe you can speak to both. And what's the importance of putting the facts in a letter, which may be a denial of the claim letter, and what's the importance of the termination?
Well, the letter is so, so, so important. And I think it's overlooked sometimes by sureties of sending a response letter to the obligee, and to do it early on, and then to maybe even do it twice. But we had an $80 million case that recently ended where the letter was Exhibit A for us. And the 3 panel members of the AAA, the American Arbitration Association, said that letter was really important, really vital.
Well,
And we talked about
on that issue, I mean, and Shirelle, what we're talking about there is there was, in this instance, a denial letter of the claim, and for a lot of what we thought were really good reasons, but laying all of that out, maybe having a 10-page letter. Talk about that a little bit. Have you done that, and why is that really important?
Well, to be honest, I haven't had that experience. Typically, I've handled commercial bond claims. So my payment and performance bond claim experience is a little bit limited.
the big
Um,
leagues are beckoning you. They're beckoning
well,
you.
very recently, I've been handling payment bond claims. I'm also helping out with some performance matters as well. So I'm kind of learning as I go, how to handle these particular issues, and when different things happen, this is what, you need to do. This is what you don't need to do. So I'm still kind of finding my way with the payment and
Well,
performance bond.
and the old saying is often in error but never in doubt. And so you have a project owner and obligee who is dead certain that they're right, and you have a principal that's dead certain that they are right, and they are diametrically opposed. So, Max, why is it so important to set forth exactly what the surety is seeing?
Because over time, memories fade. People forget things. And so cementing what you feel at that time and what the facts are at that time are so important. Contemporaneous beats ex post facto 100 times out of 100. So talking in real time, that gets more credibility. So you do it for credibility, you do it for believability, you do it for just cementing what's in there so that somebody doesn't accuse you later of flip-flopping or changing or of not even having a view. Because if you don't do anything, often what they're going to do, like Keith said, one's way to the left, one's way to the right. What they're often going to do is say, oh, they agreed with me the whole time. Oh, I had phone calls with Shirelle and she agreed with me the whole time.
Well, if they don't agree, you can't get an agreement, talk about termination and what is termination and why is that so important?
Termination is a big, bad word. and it is a draconian sanction that ends the relationship between the principal and the obligee. And it's something that is a method of last resort.
Yeah, I think the thing that's so important there is you can only have one captain of the ship. You can only have either the principal is doing the work or it has to be the surety. It can't be both. Um, the surety can suggest things while the contract with the obligee is ongoing, but you can't really get in there unless you have that contract ended, terminated, and then the surety can proceed, and you have a whole separate issue of getting the money back. That's a different issue. We're not talking about that. But to progress the project, to get the project finished, you have to have a termination. And as Max said, that's a very, very serious issue for the obligee to say, hey, you're done.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, we're talking performance bonds here, not payment bonds. There's no termination needed, as Shirelle knows, for payment bonds. For performance bonds, there's most of the time a termination is needed, depending on the state. Some states are a little bit weird and they allow for something less than a termination. We don't think those are right. Those are kind of like those bad faith states, which are just clinging on to something that is a bygone.
So, Max, just a quick question. When it comes to terminations and defaults, typically a obligee has a certain amount of time that they're supposed to inform the principal of their intent to declare default, correct?
Right, right. And inform the surety as well under the modern A312.
Okay. And then once they do that, well, is a default similar to, well, what?
You hit it. You know, I know where you're going because you hit the big issue. Is a default the same as a termination? You're hitting a real important issue. This is why my hair is gray, Shirelle, or
You don't have gray
grayish.
hair.
Is a
You
default the
got gray
same as a
hair.
termination? I don't. That's hard to say. I don't. I think it should be. And there was so much confusion over that. That's what the bond forms used to say back in the 80s. Keith will tell you about the 80s. I only know about 9 months from the 80s, but he knows a little bit more.
Well,
But
the whole issue is what I call a little d default, which is not a big deal. And there are always those. And a big D default, a default that's big enough, that big that you can terminate. To do that, you need either a big D default or a whole bunch of little d's that have mounted up over time. And you talked to Shirelle about notice. The obligee has to say, "Hey, look, and when we say obligee, we mean usually owner. It may be a general contractor, but we're talking about if you have a complaint, and most people do. If you see something, say something, and then there can be a response."
you're right. There's a lot of complaining going on in 2025. I'm tired of all this complaining.
You always get that, right, Shirelle? You get a lot of complaints. You get what some people would call flack letters,
Rumble letters.
rumble letters.
Why are
You
they
get
called
those, right,
rumble
Shirelle?
letters?
Because things are rumbling. It hasn't broken yet. It hasn't broken yet, but it's shaking.
Well,
It's
that's the
shaking. It's
whole
rumbling.
issue is it rumbling? Is it, sparring? Is it kind of dancing around with the contract continuing and the work continuing and the payment continuing? Is all that happening? Or are we ready to call an end to it to say, that's it, no more? And so at that point, you don't have a rumble letter or a flack letter trying to influence people to do things. You have okay, hard stop, time to quit.
Yeah, we called them encouragement letters in our because we tried to find a more neutral term. So we used the word encouragement letters in our big case that we just had, Shirelle, and that's what the three arbitrators put in their final award, was that the obligee was merely sending these encouragement letters. And so what was happening was the principal was out there working on this hotel. They were doing the mechanical and the plumbing. They were doing the work on this hotel, this big hotel in Austin. And they were continuing to work, but these letters keep flying into the surety. The obligee is saying, hey, your principal is really bad. They're really bad. They're really bad. But meanwhile, at the same time, the principal continues to work. And it's like, what the heck? You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Well, that's what's hard, Shirelle, for the surety, for people in your position to say, you've let the work progress. You have continued to pay the contractor. Yes, a year ago you sent what I call a rumble or a flack or a complaint letter, but you didn't declare a hard stop. And until you declare that hard stop, we, the surety, are not really in a position to do anything.
Yeah. Could be tortious interference in some states. That's a big fancy word. You can Google it. Good luck spelling it.
So the termination is the trigger that means that the surety is going to step in or needs to step in.
The termination and the meeting and the notice of default.
Okay.
Yeah, the surety basically has two options. Either whether they get a termination, which may be rightful, it may be wrongful, so you have to look at that, or you can, under your assignment, you can exercise your rights by assignment. And again, that's a very difficult, serious issue to deal with. So we could do a whole podcast on that as well. But
we got ideas for the whole season, baby.
Well, the issue, I mean, Shirelle, you are faced with what one might call a Hobson's choice. I'm not sure why. Who was Mr. Hobson, Max?
John Hobbs. Blaze is gonna put it up on the screen in the edited version. He's gonna show how wrong I am.
Max with the facts.
But it's John Hobbs.
Okay, yeah, you're probably wrong. But Shirelle, the issue is, okay, you have to do something. You're ready to either deny the claim or ask the obligee, hey, what do you want to have accomplished? And you can, at that point, encourage your principal to try to make peace and get along. Or, you may have to look at the issue of termination. Are we at a juncture where there should be a termination?
Yeah, and the make peace and get along is so important because, like I said earlier, termination is a method of last resort. There is always an option to shore up the issues and to patch together that relationship and to get the project moving again. That's what the surety often is tasked to do, is to get the project moving towards completion. And that's what we often say when we come in. We say, hey, what's the goal? Isn't the goal to finish the project, right? So the best person to do it is the principal, who's already there and already knows the project. It's a lot harder if you get a replacement contractor that doesn't know the project and is going to bid 2 times higher. It costs a lot of money and a lot more time.
A lot of money. It costs a lot of money. And, the time issue comes in because your principal may have already acquired material, steel or whatever. And that's another podcast. But, the issue there is, hey, how do we get this project completed? Because literally time is money in so many instances.
Have you seen that phrase yet, Shirelle? Time is of the essence.
Yes, all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
And how long have you been in the surety claim handling game? Didn't you start right around COVID?
Just about. I initially
Yeah.
got into surety overall in 2017, but I started handling claims between 2019 and 2020.
So
So,
that's it's harder for you though. It's actually you're in a unique position because you've handled a lot of these remotely, right?
yeah, quite a bit.
Like your work though is remote. Like you could work on projects in California, right?
I guess, yeah, theoretically.
I mean, like where are most of your projects that you're handling right now? What states?
Texas, actually, right around
Okay.
where you guys
Texas is
are.
the big one. That's where we are.
The country of Texas. So you mentioned, Shirelle, commercial bonds and P&P bonds. So if you would explain the difference, what is a P&P bond and what is a commercial bond?
So I'm gonna try to explain it the way I understand it. So a PMP bond is a payment and performance bond. The performance side of it guarantees the performance of a particular project. And the payment bond actually guarantees payment to the subcontractors. So essentially, if someone was to file a claim against the performance bond, the claimant is typically the obligee, and the obligee is basically saying to the surety that the project isn't being completed the way that it's supposed to be completed. The payment side of it, it's typically either a first tier or a second tier subcontractor who, for some reason, hasn't gotten paid, or they're claiming that they haven't been paid for labor, materials, and a few different other things, I believe, that they provided on a particular project. The
Okay, so what are commercial? Tell me what commercial bonds mean.
When I first learned about commercial bonds, the way I distinguished them from the contract side, which is the payment and performance, was commercial bonds typically require renewal. They're for a set period of
Yeah.
time. Um, they can be from a motor vehicle dealer bond, which basically is saying that the motor vehicle dealer is going to um, act responsibly, right? When it comes to, say you're purchasing a car, and you want to make sure the paperwork is right, the title is correct, the taxes that you paid are going to the proper places. So that particular commercial bond will guarantee that. There are a variety of different kinds of commercial bonds. You have the FMCSA bonds, which are for brokers. You got some license and permit bonds. There's just so many that I wouldn't even be able to go through each one.
Okay, all right.
Explaining surety in under 2 minutes is actually impressive. I like that. There's this big, great divide between sureties that do commercial bonds and sureties that do P&P bonds, and it's like almost like factions. You know, they're like, we don't want to talk to sureties that do P&P bonds. We're commercial bonds. We're superior.
Well,
Mhm.
Shirelle, tell me about your normal day and what you're doing and what you're doing to help out the various claimants that come to you.
So typically, let's say I get a claim in. A lot of my claims right now are payment bond claims. So these are for projects, right? And like I said, most of them are in Texas. So for some reason, either a first tier subcontractor, which is typically a contractor who has a contract with the general contractor, right? To provide labor and or materials. Or the second tier subcontractor, which is a contractor that contracted with the first tier contractor, if that makes sense. So there are two different tiers who are there. They have the right to file a claim against the bond. So
But
typically,
then other people do, right? Like some T3, T4,
right,
T5.
they try to file claims, but then those we typically just deny because you don't have a right to claim on the bond.
Wait, are you saying denial ain't just a river in Egypt?
It's not. I use it a lot
Oh,
in my work.
I think
Um,
Mark Twain said that, or Matt Twain, whatever his name is.
oh,
Well, and a lot of people or some people think the whole business of the surety is a denial, to deny a claim. My
Yeah.
experience is that that rarely happens. The surety is going to do everything they can possibly think of to try to get the claim to resolve, or they're going to pay claims. And rarely they actually cross that river of denial. What's your experience, Shirelle?
Yeah, I think I've had situations where I've denied claims, but it doesn't happen as often as you think. And like you said, the goal is not necessarily to deny the claim. It's really to figure out what's going on, what's happening, what are the defenses that the surety has, what is the obligee saying or the claimant, and just trying to figure out the best solution and the proper solution, right?
Right. And surety is a zero loss product. What the heck is a zero loss product?
Well, and I'll turn it to you, Sherelle. But to me, that's the difference between surety and insurance. With insurance, you're transferring the risk to the insurance company. You're paying a premium for that transfer of that risk, but the insurance company pays the loss of the accident. With surety, you're not doing that. The zero loss, the whole idea is the principal is supposed to perform. If they do not perform, most times, either what we call the common law, the court made law, or the indemnity agreement, a piece of paper says there are indemnitors, there are the owners of the company that are going to stand good for the cost of fixing the problem. So that's why it's zero loss, is that in theory, all the money comes back to the surety, and the surety is there to facilitate. Um, did I get that close, Sorrel?
Yeah, pretty much. That's exactly what it is. I
Good
have
enough for
arguments with all
government work.
right. I have all kinds of arguments with people that surety is not insurance, but I guess
Do you
because
do
people,
that at 7-Eleven? Do you have that kind of argument with people? You just walk up, you're like, you know what? Surety's not insurance. You know that?
it's more
You don't talk about that on the elevator a whole lot, I don't think.
it's more so when people ask me what I do for a living and I try to explain it to them, they're like, "Oh, you're in insurance," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's not
See, I
insurance."
don't ever explain it, Shirelle. I just don't even explain it to people. I just say, yeah, I do something.
Well, the whole explanation is we are problem solvers. Our job is to try to solve the problem,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
almost like a mediator, right? It's
why
almost like
we
being a mediator.
investigate, why we offer solutions, and people have to agree that that is what should happen.
Right.
But if that doesn't happen, then you end up in a lawsuit or an arbitration or a fight. But there's a lot of effort to avoid having to go down that hallway.
You
Right.
said you could end up in a litigation, arbitration, or a fight. Is a duel still an acceptable form of conflict resolution in suretyship, or no?
Well, I drove to Texas, and when I got to the state border, they stopped me. The police stopped me, and they said, "Hey, son, do you have any weapons in the car?" And I said, "No, no, sir, I don't." And so they gave me some. So,
Oh, he said a joke. A good
so,
one.
so to answer your question, in Texas, I guess dueling is still a way to resolve disputes, but
What about
so
those
many, so
nunchucks your
many,
wife's got under the bed? Those nunchucks.
so many ways have evolved. Whether it's sticks, guns, knives, a jury, a judge, an arbitrator who is a private judge. Most of those ways are very time consuming and costly. And so, our job and Sherelle's job is to do everything that she can do to solve the problem. First, solve the problem. And later on, if there is blame to be assessed, but do that later if you can, Max.
Step by step. Gotcha. I like this. So what's everybody's favorite hashtag in the Surety game? Let's start with Keith. Your favorite Surety hashtag?
Well, I'm big on Surety hashtag and, putting that in and having people find the information that way. So I think that's a very important issue.
Because Surety Rocks is my favorite. I don't know about you.
I often use hashtags. I'm a big hashtag user. So
Shirelle, do you think he's a hashtag user? Okay,
Absolutely not.
She's getting really good at spotting it. See, you are kind of the mediator in the middle. Like a Surety is often setting you up. He's doing Surety
a lot
Rock.
of people are haters and they hate on my excessive use of hashtags, but believe me, I'm a big believer.
Oh my
I
God.
think Keith is a big hashtag user just as much as he's a dancer.
He is a dancer. Hey,
I am a dancer.
But
hey, and look, he's got skin in the game now too. You know that, right?
how so?
Well, he's talking about my knife fight. I had a knife fight and the knife won.
Oh.
The other guy. That was not Surety related, but it was Surety adjacent, right?
Yeah, right.
All right, so we're going to wrap up this episode and we're going to start brainstorming for some other ones when we're offline. But any closing thoughts for this episode, Shirelle? I mean, I think it was a lot better than the first one. The first one was kind of El Stinko.
You know what's funny? I haven't even watched it yet. I'm a little nervous.
The edited version is so good. Blaze, I don't want to toot his horn too much. He's 17, so he's just some, high school young punk. And he said in there, we spoiled the 33-year-old movie, My Cousin Vinny. And I'm just thinking, man, that movie came out 2 lifetimes ago for you.
Right.
If you haven't seen My Cousin Vinny, it's too late. We can spoil it. I think
it's a great movie, and it's hard for you Utes to understand.
To what?
Excuse me, youths.
Youths.
Youths. Y-O-U-T-H. Youths.
Do you remember that from the movie, Shirelle?
No. I did hear it, but I thought they were saying use, like Y-O-U-S, like use.
Yeah. Joe Pesci was saying 2 Utes, and Herman Munster, the judge, said, "What was that word? Did you say Utes?" And he said, "Oh, excuse me, use."
It's that New York accent that I took.
Yeah.
New Yorkers.
All right. Keith,
I guess, Max, we're going to talk about A Few Good Men on another episode, right?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the next one because if we spoil that movie, that came out the same year, actually. It came out in 92. And if we spoil that one, Blaze is going to blow a gasket or something. He'll probably edit this and put those lip faces on all of us, like that he did with the first edit, where he just put the lips talking.
Have you seen that movie, Shirelle?
A Few Good Men. I literally watched it this morning because I thought we were going to talk about it today.
Oh.
So
okay,
I paid Amazon $15 to rent that movie today. I could have ordered it on Prime for $8.
Right. Let's do a preview. I'm always ready to talk Tom Cruise, baby.
It was a very good movie, very bittersweet. Very bittersweet. Yeah, the ending, I mean, like it was really good. Like I was very engaged in the film, and I
was really pulling for Jack Nicklaus's character the whole time, and
Nicholson.
Oh, I meant
Jack Nicholson.
No, I'm talking about the golfer, Jack Nicklaus, the Golden Bear.
You can't handle the truth.
That's good.
I want Max to go into character for that next time, or whenever we do that.
We will. And we can do it sooner, so we don't have to wait 2 weeks between these episodes. We can just do it, next week. That's what my friend Michael, who is my roommate, he never showed up to class. He would just play Rock Band all day. But he's got a really popular podcast called Fine Dining, and he just keeps pumping out episodes like 3 a week. I mean, that's crazy. Maybe we could do 1 a week, I guess.
You actually eat 3 times a week, Max?
I do.
Wait, so what's that podcast about? Eating out?
Yeah, and finding the most mediocre restaurant in America. So he just travels around and he's trying to find a 5 out of 10 restaurant.
Oh.
And I'm like, bro, why are you trying to find a 5 out of 10?
Come to my house. I'll show you.
Show you 5 out of 10?
5 out
Come
of 10.
over here. I'll show you a 1 out of 10.
Right, and you can pay me $150 for it too.
Is that how much soul food costs?
I'll have you know that I actually prefer to make other kinds of foods as opposed to soul food.
Yeah, because you're not from the South. You're a proud Northerner.
I am, but I do macaroni and cheese.
Ooh,
And-
with bacon?
Yeah, no, not with bacon.
Oh, what?
Mm-mm.
Don't look at me like that.
No
Bacon's good.
pork, no pork in my mac and cheese. Just
pork in
plain
mac
macaroni.
Closing, Shirelle, I want to thank you for explaining suretyship. I think we have a better understanding. There's a whole lot to talk about, but we have a good basics on our understanding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys have. I want to close and say you guys have the good basics down of being 5 out of 10 co-hosts, and so I'm really glad that my mighty fine co-hosts are here. And maybe next time we'll get to like 6 out of 10, and that'll probably be like your guys' cap in terms of potential. Everybody's got a certain potential. You guys, I don't know, like 6, 6.5. That's about it.
No, I haven't reached anywhere near my potential.
All right, I'm gonna let Blaze do the magic of editing this. It'll take him a while, but I usually make him work hard over the weekend. I don't know why he likes working the weekends, but something like school's in the way. So he's going to have the edited version of this on like Monday. I'm going to post the unedited version today. And so that'll be available for everybody. But Shirelle, go watch the first one. Link in the comments below. It's not in the comments below, but imagine it is. It's on www.comedy.law. I launched that website. So that's where you'll be able to see everything.
I think we should only release edited versions.
Only release edited versions?
Please, and thank you.
Just watch the first one though, and like some of the stuff you'll see is he's got the Zoomer humor.
Okay. And do you know how many views? Does it tell you how many views it has?
Yeah, we're at 1.7 million, I think.
Increasing and increasing.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that is the end of episode number 2. I think it was 2 times better than episode number 1, but we'll see what the people think.
And have a good day and have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Comedy.law, yeah, we're here to play. Max, Shirelle, Keith leading the way. Lawyers with laughs and jokes to slay. Tune in, folks, it's Comedy.law today.